Hi everyone, so today we're going to be going over operations with integers, specifically addition and subtraction. So to start off, we're just going to quickly go over what an integer is. So an integer is a number that can be written without a fractional component, so any whole number that is positive or negative or 0 is an integer. So as you can see here, 21, 4, 0, and negative 240 are all examples of integers, whereas 9.75, 5.5, and the square root of 2 are not integers because those are fractional components or decimals, which can be written as a fraction. So if we're going to go through understanding integers, what we're going to want to know is the difference between a negative and a positive. So 4 feet above the surface would be positive 4 because we're talking about going up. And a coupon for $1 off would be -1 because we are subtracting, we're taking away a dollar. And then a 5-point deduction in figure skating, again, we are taking away 5 points, so that would be -5. So first off, we're going to go through addition. Addition rules: when you add a positive number and a negative number, if the positive number has a bigger magnitude, the result will be positive. If the negative number has a bigger magnitude, the result is negative. So when you add a negative number, -2, and a positive number 4, the result is the same sign as the number with the larger magnitude. So in this case, 4 is a larger magnitude and 4 is positive, so the result will be positive. So we know that the result is positive. Then if we're going to actually do out the math, -2 plus 4 equals +2. So the result is positive. And we're going to go over how to actually do that math out in this slide. So -1 plus 2, whenever you're adding a positive number to a negative number, you can switch the order. So it is just 2 plus -1, and 2 plus -1 essentially means 2 minus 1. Now, so then our answer, 2 minus 1, is going to be 1. And since 2 is the bigger magnitude and 2 is positive, our answer is positive. So then again, -1 plus 3, we want to do 3 plus -1, which is just, sorry, my handwriting's not so neat on here, which is just 3 minus 1. Again, which equals 2, and since 3 is a higher magnitude and 3 is positive, the answer is going to be positive. Next, so this one's a little tricky because we have -5 and +5 to figure out which sign we're going to use. So if we do it out first, now we're subtracting a negative from a positive, so we know that 5 plus -5 essentially is just 5 minus 5. So our answer is going to be 0. And anytime you're adding two numbers that are opposite signs, the answer is going to be 0. Okay, next we have -4 plus -2. So now we're just going to ignore the signs. What is 4 plus 2? 6. Which sign? They're both negatives. So the larger one is negative, so the answer has to be negative. So we get -6. Then we have 1 plus -3, so 1, which we know equals 1 minus 3. So if we look at a number line for this one, because it's a little tricky, this is 0, and this is 1, this is -1, -2, and -3. What this question is essentially asking us is 1 over here minus 1, 2, 3. So our answer is 2, and because 3 is negative and 3 is larger magnitude, our answer is -2. Okay, so when you're adding more than one integer, the sign is going to be of the combined two integers. So -7 plus -3, if we add just regular 7 plus 3, we get 10, and they're both negative, so the answer is going to be -10, plus, and then our two positives, 8 plus 3. 8 plus 3 is 11. So 11 has a higher magnitude. 11 is positive. We know our answer is going to be positive, but we don't know what it's going to be. So here we're going to switch it. So it becomes 11 minus 10. And then we get, so 11 minus 10 equals positive 1. Then we have, okay, so the answer is going to be negative 1. And then for the next question, we're going to do 10 plus 2. Oh, wait, I don't want to do that. So we're just going to do 10 plus 2, which is 12 plus negative 9 plus negative 4, and 9 plus 4 is 13, so we get negative 13. So our value, our highest magnitude is negative 13, so the answer is going to be negative. Now we want to do 12 minus 13. Again, if we were to be looking at a number line, I will draw it up here. If we're looking at a number line, and this is 12, this is 11, this is 10, and so on and so forth. You would have to do 1, 2, and then until you get to 13. Now we know 12 minus 12 is 0, so 12 minus 13 is going to be negative 1, and it's negative. Obviously, we know because of negative 13. Okay, so this one, our numbers are a little bit out of order, but just off the top of our heads, 8 plus 6 is 14, so we know the answer is going to be negative because negative 19 is bigger than 14. So first we're going to do 8 minus 19, and that's a big number. So 8 minus 19 is going to get us negative 11 plus 6, we know, is just going to be 6 minus 11, and that's going to give us negative 5. Sorry, it's a little messy, but it's negative 5. Okay, for here, the answer is going to be positive. 3 plus 5 plus 19 is bigger than negative 3. Just by looking at it, you can tell. So we're going to start off. 3 plus 5 is 8 plus 19 is 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 is 27. And then that's going to be plus negative 3, which is minus 3. So we get 24. Positive 24, as we predicted. And then 0 plus negative 7 is just going to be 0 minus 7 equals negative 7 plus negative 16. So 7 plus 16 equals 23, and the answer is going to be negative, so that is negative 23. So those are just some examples on adding integers. If you do get confused by the negatives and the positives and whatever, just get rid of the sign and go back to the sign at the end of the equation, because you will be able to tell by the number, the larger number that has the sign attached to it. Also, if you end up with something like 1 minus 3, which we're not used to, just write it down on a number line to help yourself and count it down, and it's super simple that way. So now we're going to be going over subtraction. When you are subtracting a negative number, you are just going to add a positive number instead. So 9 minus negative 7 is really just 9 plus 7, because the two negatives, the subtraction and the negative number, will cancel each other out. Now you have the sum of two positive numbers. When you add two positive numbers, the result is positive. You can check your answer by doing the math. So 9 minus negative 7 is 9 plus 7, 16. And then when you're starting with a negative number, so you're starting here with negative 76, when you subtract 6, the result is even less than 76. So the result is going to be negative. because you were starting with negative 76, you were going backwards on the number line. So not to confuse anyone, if we have negative 76 right here and we are subtracting 6, we're going this way. And that takes us to negative 77, negative 78, and so on. So your result is going to be negative, and it's going to be like you're adding 6. So essentially you're just doing 76 plus 6 because we're getting 82, but the result is, oh, sorry, I crossed out the 82 by accident, but the result is 82, and then you're putting the negative on it because you're starting with the negative number. So subtraction is a little more confusing. It's not necessarily about which number is great, which higher number has the sign. It's more about which number you start with. So when you start with with positive, your number is going to be positive. When you start with a negative, your number is going to be negative. Okay, so now we're going to go into some subtraction examples. So we're starting with a negative, and to make things a little bit more simpler, whenever you're subtracting and you're starting with a negative, just think about it. Get rid of your negatives and think about what 5 plus 4 is. 5 plus 4 is 9. We're starting with a negative, which means our number is going to be negative as a subtraction rule. This doesn't apply to addition, so the answer is going to be negative 9. If you look at, to explain how this makes sense, if you look at a number line, this is negative 5. This is negative, here we have negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, and then negative 9. When you're subtracting 4, you're going this way. So subtraction goes that way every time. So minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4 gives us negative 9. Instead of looking at the number line, it's just a little bit of an easier trick to just do 5 plus 4, 9, add the negative because you're starting with the negative, negative 9. Here again, if we add our negative 4 and our negative 3, 3 plus 4 is 7. Add that negative on. So 3 minus 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 7. As you saw before, if you're adding and subtracting a negative, 2 minus negative 2 equals 2 plus 2. So the answer for this one is 4. Again, negative 1 minus 4 is 1 plus 4, 5, negative 5. 3 minus negative 1, 3 plus 1 equals 4. Negative 4 minus 3, 4 plus 3 equals 7. And then again, we're going to add that negative on there. 2 minus negative 1 is just 2 plus 1. So that equals 3. And then negative 4 minus 5, we have 9, because 4 plus 5 is 9, and then we add the negative on there because it's negative 4. Negative 5 minus negative 4. So that one's a little bit tricky because we know when we are adding a negative, when we are subtracting a negative, it equals out to a positive. So here we get negative 5 plus 4. And then that will equal 4 minus 5. And then 4 minus 5 is negative 1. And then here we go, the last one. 4 minus negative 3 equals 4 plus 3. So we get, again, 7. Subtraction, it gets a little bit confusing, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it's not so hard. Same with addition, you just need to get a lot of practice. So just keep practicing and you'll start to get the hang of it and it'll start to make a little more sense. Again, the number line helps you understand a lot. So like I'll do it again for this 4 minus negative 3. If our 0 is here and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we get negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. So we're subtracting negative 3 from 4. So our 4 is right here. Oh, sorry, I just completely disregarded that. 5, 6, 7. We're subtracting negative 3 from 4. Again, we know that the negatives cancel each other out and create a positive. So adding 3, 1, 2, 3 gives us positive 7. So if you ever get confused, the subtracting from a negative is definitely a little bit more confusing because you can't just cancel it out for a positive and you can't switch the numbers. So I would say the number line is a lot more helpful for questions that start with a negative number. But if you ever get confused, you just write out the number line, and you can count it out yourself. So yeah, that's it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed,